Hi everyone, welcome back. Can I just start by saying a quick thank you for the incredibly lovely response I had to my first video. Had so many nice comments and feedback and personal messages, and everyone seemed to really enjoy this concept of kind of people being what it's all about, and it was really lovely to share that with you, so thank you. And as promised, today I'm going to be talking about the concept of deeper innovation, which to me is what we are being called to do more of in this very challenging time in history. And it's been really interesting because I've had a lot of different responses when I've talked about deeper innovation. I talked about it in the video and also at an event a couple of weeks ago, and it seems to mean very different things to different people. So for some people it's that the technology that we're working on isn't going far enough, isn't going to have enough impact, that we can do more in terms of technological innovation. And I've also had responses that are very sort of systematic, I suppose, that are kind of how can we introduce a new system or a new process in the business. For me, neither of those things are really what I'm talking about, although I'm happy that they are inspiring people. For me, deeper innovation is it's very much human-centered. So for me, it has to come from a personal origin and it has to have a human impact. So this is just my definition. I'm exploring this for myself kind of in real time here with you. So, you know, this is not sort of a theory or a correct. This is just my sort of journey in terms of how we can make meaningful change and be better people and do better business as we move forward. So, as I said, I think deeper innovation has to have personal origin and human impact. So let's look at each of those. Personal origin. I talked about how we've all had this opportunity, I think, to do some real internal examination and real reflection on what matters most to us. That for me has to be the starting point for change. The motivation for change needs to come from within, because it's really the only kind of motivation that will ever last for us, and that will give us the courage and resilience to make really meaningful change. So it has to be personal. It can even be selfish. I mean, this is the time to be selfish. But it also has to be heartfelt. So I think when something is both selfish and heartfelt, it will ultimately be something good. And Simon Sinek, who I talk about a lot, talks about how your personal why and your professional why are one and the same thing. And I think that's a concept that we really need to take to heart. We don't show up to business and become somebody else. We don't suddenly start getting turned on by different things. We're not suddenly sort of led by different motivations. Whatever it is that motivates us as a human being is what motivates us as a business leader. But I think we don't often go through that process of really examining what it is that matters to us most. So in a first step, I would invite you to explore with me what your personal why is, and I'm definitely going to be doing a future episode about that and talking about my personal why. So I'm going to be brave and I'm going to go there, and I would love it if you would do the same. I see these videos as a space to have conversations that we probably don't have otherwise in day-to-day business. So take a few minutes and have a think about what it is that really motivates you at a heart level. As I said last week, for me, it's something around people and connection with people, and I'll go into that in more detail. So then when we understand what that personal motivation is, whenever that is our starting point, I think it naturally flows from there that the impact of the change or the innovation that we're going to make will be human. It will have human impact. You know, I think this concept of people being at the center of the business is absolutely not original. You know, it's something that everyone talks about. But for me, it's not quite right. You know, I did say last week it's all about the people, but I think often when we talk about that or we hear about that in business, people are almost still handled like some kind of commodity. Like, we put people at the center of our business. It sort of implies that they're a resource somehow that's being put there. So I'd like to sort of change those words slightly and think about being human in business and have the focus about being human. And I think when I look back at these months of lockdown, you know, and as I start now doing more work coming back from maternity leave, what I'm really noticing is that we're all naturally just being way more human in our interactions. You know, when I'm having meetings with people, you know, I'm seeing little corners of their home where they're working, and often, you know, we'll have all our conversations are starting with, you know, I don't know, I've just come from the school run, and or, you know, I just literally did a run and I'm just got out the shower, and you know, the real stuff that we just don't normally have the opportunity to experience because we're so used to just bringing our business professional selves when we interact. And for me, just even those little changes of, you know, getting used to the fact that, you know, 9 out of 10 of our conference calls are going to be interrupted by someone's kid needing something, or you know, I don't know, the post woman ringing the door, you know, whatever it might be. There's little everyday life things are now becoming part of how we do business, and we're getting used to it. And I think that business will be better for it. I think that whenever we are more human, the outcome will be better. So that's absolutely not the answer, it's not the full picture, but it's definitely the starting point. You know, the innovation and the change that needs to come at this time, it has to start with being more human. So that's my second invitation to you today. How can you be more human in business? Have you been more human? Have you felt that more from other people? I would love to hear about that. It's a challenge because it requires a certain amount of vulnerability and a certain amount of trust that you are more than your professional persona, and that, you know, being human is being imperfect, and trusting that that will mean better business and better business outcomes in the long term. So that's kind of the framework for what I'm going to be exploring in future videos. I'll be talking about my personal why. I'm going to be talking about how to match your personal why with your professional why. I'm going to talk about how that kind of being human can be a valid business principle that leads to better commercial outcomes even. So I hope you'll stay tuned, keep going with me on the journey, and thanks for listening.